worth of medical bills. And so recognizing that dilemma, a number of us got together and said, what could we do? What could we help? Because the last thing we want her to do is to stop getting the wonderful treatments that have made such a big impact in her life. So one interesting thing was she had this amazing collection of all these things here, and we said, well, she said, maybe we could use that and leverage it. So a number of us started brainstorming and said, well, maybe we could organize an event, basically build it around an auction for this memorabilia, and also, again, get everybody here just to celebrate Kathy and all that she's done. Well, it wasn't too hard coming up with the idea. The hard part was, well, how do we pull that all together? And so a number of us got together and we started a little committee. And basically, this group of amazing people started meeting on a regular basis and said, how are we gonna pull this together? And everybody had something to contribute. Kathy actually had most of the ideas, and we just started making phone calls and inviting. And I just want to mention the names of this committee. There's a Ron Tadiosen. Ron, did you make it this evening? I didn't see Ron. Gary Plummer, who's here, Lisa Lavenger, who's here, Ed Hoff, Chris Hurd, who will be speaking here shortly, Kevin Danby, who just ran that wonderful raffle for us. But just an amazing group of people who started meeting. Basically, we had a bi-weekly call where we would start working through all the mechanics. In addition to those people I just mentioned, there are three in particular that I really need to highlight. So the first one is Dennis Brillo. Where's Dennis? There he is. So Dennis is an amazing guy. He's actually a collector, and he worked very hard to do a lot of research on these items, to work with Michael to catalog them, to take photographs. All of you who went out to the website saw those photos. That was a collaborative effort with he and Michael. And again, Dennis, really couldn't come off without you, so thank you for so much for all your help. The next person I have to mention is Michael Pasiva, Kathy's wonderful husband. Man, this guy has just worked his tail off. Everything from pulling all these things out, cleaning them, photographing them, building the website, the KathyBarber.com website, building these stands that are here. I mean, Michael's tireless efforts, frankly, without him, this event, this auction certainly never would have happened. So Michael, thank you so much. Your efforts were just amazing. And I've already mentioned her, but I have to say it again. Special thanks to my cousin Louise DeRay. I have to tell you, Louise and I have known each other a long time. And again, she was one of the older cousins of one of the older siblings, and I didn't know her as well as a kid. I enjoyed reminding her that when I was 10, I went to her wedding. It was the first wedding I ever went to. It was such a highlight for me. So yeah, I'm a little cousin. But we had such a great time, Louise and I, getting to know each other and working together through this thing. For those of you who don't know, Louise is a retired event planner, so she actually planned these things for the Hartford, the insurance company here. So I had no idea of the world-class talent that we were leveraging as we started pulling this thing together. She's absolutely brilliant and beautiful, and I was so impressed with her. And honestly, if she had asked me to do anything, I would have done it. I worshiped the ground she walked on. So shortly after she was diagnosed, here a few months ago, she called me and she asked me if I would be her, what she called a Texas project manager. And so I was happy to help out. And I got to spend some time with Kathy during her time at the Brzezinski Clinic. So many of you may know, I'll explain just a minute. She went to the Brzezinski Clinic in Houston, which is just a few hours from where I live. And while I was working with her in Houston, we had a really wonderful opportunity to spend a lot of time. She was having drugs administered, and we would sit there in the chair. She'd sit there in the chair, and I would sit with her, and we would just talk about NATO family stories. And it was such a blessing, such an awesome opportunity just to hear about the family and the history of the family. So it was a real pleasure for me. One of the members of the family that we talked a lot about was my cousin Louise DeRay. Louise is the person who organized this event for us tonight. And I have to tell you, so being the younger cousin, having the two older cousins bossing you around for like the last month and a half, it's been an awful lot of fun for me.
Stand up.
Say no messages, by the way.
So let me just tell you a little bit about tonight and kind of what we're here for. As I just said, this program tonight is really intended as a celebration. I mean, Kathy, look at the turnout. I mean, what an amazing group of people here today. And the nice thing is, it's a nice representation from her family, who's here, her business colleagues, her collector friends. We have a really nice mix. Well, what a wonderful turnout to come and celebrate, Kathy and all she's done for all of us. She's been really amazing. It's hard to believe, but it was only about 8 months ago. She went with her cousin Joe Nato, who's not here, to a big hospital in a big city to find out more about her situation and to find out, frankly, shockingly so, that she had fourth stage colon cancer, and at that time, they told her she had 6 months to live. And could you imagine someone as healthy, Kathy, who works out and eats well, could you imagine the shock of that diagnosis for her? It was pretty amazing. But in typical Kathy fashion, she basically said, I'm not taking this diagnosis. And she started going out and doing some research and working with some real interesting friends to find out about additional kinds of treatments that she could consider. Now, as most of you know, she's a bit of a health nut. And as I like to say, she's surrounded by a large, caring bowl full of nuts. And this bowl full of nuts just started doing research and eventually came to her with the idea of the Brzezinski Clinic, which, as I mentioned, is just a couple of hours from my house. So she asked me, in my capacity as her Texas project manager, to help see if I could arrange things to get her there. And I actually spent 2 weeks with her during that period. And I have to tell you, in full honesty, she looked awful. When I first saw her, when I got there, she did not look like the Kathy that I know. I literally had to carry her with Michael into my car, and I literally had to carry her to the chair that we wheeled her in. And she was not anything like the woman that you see here this evening. And it's just an amazing testimony, not only to her and her incredible strength of character, I think a ton of prayer that she's gotten, and frankly some great treatment she's gotten from the Brzezinski Clinic. So again, 8 months later, after getting a 6-month diagnosis from the hospital, she's here tonight and looking wonderful, isn't she? Now I have to tell you, what the Brzezinski Clinic does is a bit outside the norm. What it does, it prescribes treatments that are outside the standard protocols, and frankly, sometimes insurance companies won't pay for that treatment. So Kathy and Michael, frankly, have been stuck with tens of thousands worth of medical bills. And so, through this thing. For those of you who don't know, Louise is a retired event planner, so she actually planned these things for the Hartford, the insurance company here. So I had no idea of the world-class talent that we were leveraging as we started pulling this thing together. And those of you who know me, I am not a detail person. I like big picture stuff. Man, she obsesses over details like no one I have ever seen, and did an absolutely remarkable job at pulling all this together, negotiating with a hotel, working all the details of the tables and the colors and what kind of skirts do we have. And I mean, a level of detail that frankly is unbelievable. So Louise, I want to thank you, especially from the entire committee, for your huge contributions to this whole thing. I also want to mention, by the way, that when we had to make the very difficult decision to slip this thing 2 weeks, and by the way, I was so glad I actually came up here anyway, and I sat at Kathy's house and I watched the snow pile up. It was over a foot by the time they were done, so good call. You did the right thing. But I'm so grateful to all of you for being here anyway, because it's amazing. We actually had the same turnout that we would have had 2 weeks ago. I mean, almost to the exact number. So what a great blessing it was to have all of you come despite that, so thank you. But while I was sitting there with Kathy, we were just thinking, gosh, okay, we made the right call, even though that was a tough one. So, in closing, tonight, as I said, we're here to celebrate Kathy and the fact that she's beating the odds. I mean, it's just amazing how she is, how great she looks, as we've already talked about. And while she still had some setbacks, those of you following the Caring Bridge, there are setbacks, and she's going to continue to have setbacks. But we also know that the good things are going to outweigh the bad things and continue to be an amazing trajectory. I can tell you right now, she's far outstripped anything that the doctors predicted for at this point, and I have every belief that she's going to continue to do amazingly well in terms of her health and continue to go. But in order for this to continue, we have to ensure that she has the funds. I mean, this, because as I mentioned, the nature of the Brzezinski Clinic being a little bit unusual, a lot of these funds are coming straight out of her bank account. So we're here tonight to help make sure that she continues to have the funds that she needs to continue to have this great treatment. So I don't want to be too dramatic, but I want to say that this event is truly a life-giving event for Kathy on several levels, and we're also grateful, all of you, for being here this evening and frankly spending extravagantly on all these wonderful things that you see up here that will be auctioned here shortly. I just want to emphasize 100% of what we raise is going to go straight to Kathy to support her in her ongoing treatment. So, with all that said, I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being here, and thank you so much for all of your support. It's delightful for me to see family members that I haven't gotten to see in so long, so thank you all for coming. As far as Chicago, Alita, thank you, it's great to see you. It's truly a delight for me to be here today. So with no further ado, I want to introduce the persons you really came to see, and not me, Kathy Barber. Thank you.